everyone, this is Olga, and today I want to talk with you about the biggest mistake you can make in a relationship when you're not quite happy with something. And do stay until the end because we will be talking about what to do instead. I'm sure everyone was in a situation one time or other when there is something in the relationship, whether it is your partner or your friends or colleagues, and everything is all right, but there's something not quite right. There's something not quite happy with. The biggest mistake you can do, and it happens all the time, it's really a trap that a lot of people fall onto. The biggest mistake is to put all the responsibility and to put the blame onto the other person. If only they blah blah blah. I want him or her just to understand this and that. If only they didn't do it like that. Whatever it is. But we're often talking about them being the problem. They need to do something differently and then the relationship will be perfect again. Why is this a mistake? The pull to just say, well, they are really that annoying. If only they stop doing this or that, everything would be perfect. It leaves you with no power, and that's why it is a mistake. It leaves you with no power to change anything. You're just sitting there waiting for them to change. Nothing you can do because you're not them. You can't really force them to change, and it's not working. And before we go much further into it, let's make it clear it is perfectly normal to be not quite happy with absolutely everything in your relationship, to have some aspects of it that you want to tweak a little bit to make it better. It's perfectly normal to change yourself, and it's perfectly normal for relationships to change too. It is your approach to it that can either make it work or make it not work. In coaching, when we're talking about relationships, the aim of the coaching is always to give the power back to you. Unless it's a couples coaching or a group coaching for a team, so when everyone is present and that other person is present as well, if it's only one person getting coaching and they're starting to talk about, I want him to, I want her to, blah, 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 etc. Well, they're not here. So we're bringing the focus back onto ourselves and we're starting to think about, what can I do? What power do I have? What can I change in this situation? And we'll go into it in a moment. But first I want to emphasize that it only takes one person to decide that something needs to change in a relationship for it to actually change. It only takes one person. You don't have to have the other person on board, and you don't have to wait for them to start it. And a lot of the time it happens very smoothly. You don't even notice it happening without any couples therapy, without any couples coaching, even without any we need to talk kind of moments. One person changes or your life situation changes, like for example, when you get a baby and the relationship needs to adapt, to adjust to that. And it happens all the time. It's totally normal. The situation I'm talking about right now, where the trap is where you feel like there is something you're not quite happy with and you have the choice. You can either do something about it and act on it, or you can do nothing and wait for the other person to do something about it. Either choice is totally valid, totally normal, but either one of those has consequences. If I choose to do something, the effort is on me. It is me who's doing something. It is me who's bringing the conversation. It is me who's trying to do other things or to change things. If I decide to not do anything and just wait, well, I leave myself with no power over the situation. It's just going to develop on its own, maybe with the influence of the other person, but I don't get a say in how it goes. But it's definitely less effort in a way. The problem with the choice of doing nothing is, again, if you're leaving it to the other person, what if they don't even want to change anything? What if they're totally happy with how things are now? And then you can be waiting for a very long time with no results and just getting more and more and more frustrated. And then that takes a toll on your relationship. In coaching, we do work on giving the power back to you. But when I say that, I don't mean the power to you so that you can force the other person to change or you can inspire them to change or anything like that. No. What I'm talking about is approaching the situation as an adult. And this is not to mean that you've been acting childish or like a teenager or anything like that. No, I'm referring to transactional analysis. We'll have a separate video on it later. But just very briefly now, there are 3 ego states: the adult, the child, and the parent. The adult is the one who has the most power in any situation. It's the most powerful state to be in. We will talk about all of them in more depth next time. But for now, The main thing about the adult is you know what you want, you communicate about what you want, you take responsibility for having it in your life, and you act on it. Those are the key elements of being an adult or acting as an adult. If you're not quite sure whether you're approaching a particular relationship from the adult ego state or not, here is a quick check. Listen to yourself talk about that relationship. How do you sound? Why did he do this again? How many times can I say that? Why can't he just listen to me? I want this too. I'm tired too. He was the one who started it, or she was the one who started it. That's unfair. That all sounds either parenty or childy, but it doesn't sound adult. And either one of those pools is not going to give you the most power to influence the situation. Before we go any further, it's very important. Any feelings are totally okay. Any feelings you have, any frustration, any anger, any upset, anything, any anxiety, anything at all is totally fine. Any feelings are okay. If you're feeling it, that's reason enough to feel that way. What you do about it is a different question. And whether you're acting on those feelings or not is a different question. And often basing your actions on your feelings is not the smartest idea. Usually it's better to take some time, maybe to vent to a trusted friend or someone else, or maybe talk to your therapist, work through those feelings, let them go, and then act once your head is clear. When this comes up in coaching, what I try to suggest to my clients is, first of all, to remind them the other person isn't here. They're not in the coaching space, so we can't change them. We can only work with yourself. The first step to gain any control is to think about, how do you want this to be? So how do you want this relationship to be? And the very important step here is to think of how you want this relationship to be with this person as they are now. Not if they change, not if they stop that very annoying habit that you're really frustrated with. No, the way they are now. How do you want this relationship to be? And then from there, you can decide, well, how can you get there? What can I do if they never change? What can I do? How can I be in this relationship to get what I want out of it? And can I get what I want out of it if this person never changes? Because they may not. It's up to them whether they want to change or not. It's up to their life, their journey. Nothing you can really influence. And this can be a bit painful. What do you mean they're not going to change? I want them to change. This can't go on forever. But it's very important to come to terms with it. Really, really important. And this is when magic can start to happen. For example, if you have someone in your life who you're very annoyed with their toxic criticisms, they're a good friend, but just some of their jokes are just too much. You can't stand it anymore. Assume they don't change. How can you protect yourself? Or for example, if my partner never asks me, what do you want to do? How can I start voicing it myself without waiting for him? Why do I need to even wait for him in the first place? How can I start voicing and creating what I want to do without waiting for someone else to do that for me? So once again, we're accepting the person as they are now. If they change, they do it on their own time when they want to. But what kind of relationship do I want with them? Get very, very clear on that. And if you see that the way they are now doesn't work for you and you can't see yourself in a relationship with a person like that, well, that's your answer. But don't delude yourself that they're just about to change and things will be different and everything will be great. Especially if you're in a relationship with someone who is toxic and abusive, do not go down there. It's not going to end well. So, what kind of relationship you want with them as they are now? Do you want a relationship with them as they are now? How can you get there? Number two, if you decide, well, actually, whether you decide you want a relationship with them or whether you decide that you don't. Number two, communicate. So how do you talk about what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you dislike, what is good for you, what is not good for you, what your needs are, what you want out of this relationship? And again, it doesn't have to be the we need to talk kind of moment. It doesn't have to be. You can just do it casually. You can just say, you know what, I really like it when we clean up straight after dinner. Let's pretend it's not a real life example. And just talk about it. Just talk about it. Sorry to break it to you, but people don't read minds. They just don't. Unless you tell them, they're not going to know. And if it's something you're struggling with, again, it's something we can work through coaching for you. So what is it difficult about communicating with other people? Why is it difficult? What's the limiting beliefs? What does it mean about you when you're saying something about what you want and what you need? And you set your boundaries and you demand that other people respect your boundaries. We can work through all of that, but again, it's all about getting the power back to you. Not leaving it with the other person for them to somehow magically figure out what it is that you want, what it is that you need, and how exactly you want to be treated. Just tell them. Much easier, saves a lot of time. You can get to your happy place a lot faster. And as I've mentioned already, yes, once you decide what type of relationship you want, and once you look without the rose-tinted glasses at the person that you're next to, you can see that actually this is not working out. I don't see myself with this person if they don't change. They obviously may or may not, but right now doesn't work for me, so it's a goodbye. Some relationships end, and it is normal. Sad, but normal. It's life. Not everyone comes into our life and stays there forever. In a perfect world, when something isn't working out, you can just come to the other person, say, look, this isn't really working for me. Do you mind if we sit down and think about it and how we can make it work? Maybe they bring something else to the table as well of what's not working out for them. And then you together can figure out a compromise that works for both of you, or decide that, you know what, let's separate. It's not working. It's fine. Thank you for all the fun times we've had, and goodbye. Have a great life. Doesn't happen quite like that very often, but it is possible. So this is really it from me for today. But just to sum up, the biggest mistake you can make in any relationship, especially in the situation when you're not quite happy with something, is to leave all the power with the other person by putting all of the responsibility onto them and by putting the blame onto them for the things that are not working out. What you can do instead is take the power back to you. So get very clear on what you want, get very clear on what the kind of person you're with, see them as they are, not the way you pictured their perfect self sometime 10 years down the line, but as they are now, what kind of relationship you want with them, how can you get there, communicate and take initiative. I hope you found this useful. Do like and subscribe if you did, and leave the comments down below. I'm very happy to chat if you have any questions, or if you want to bring your situations, if you want a hand with that, happy to help. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.